I just got back from a whole week of teaching apologetics with my friend Austin Fruits in Nigeria. It was a blast, but for this video, I want to share the outline we came up with together to teach apologetics. And the purpose of this is, well, one, if you're teaching apologetics, it can give you some ideas, but two, for the average person looking at reasons for Christianity, I want to give one example of how all the different pieces come together to form a case for Christian belief. Okay, so I've got my notes here, and let's just start with Monday morning. So Monday morning, we begin our session and we address what is apologetics. This is where we define apologetics, which is a ministry of helping people believe why we can understand that Christianity is true, answering objections against it, and so forth. Defending apologetics was another point. We wanted to show that this is biblical, that as Christians, it has been happening since the time of Jesus, since the time of Paul, all the way back. And like 1 Peter 3:15, to always be prepared to give an answer, an apologia, to everyone who asks you for the reason for the hope that you have, and do this with gentleness and respect. So apologetics defined, defended, and then apologetic methods. There's different approaches to apologetics, which a lot of people don't realize, but there's like the classical approach, which is first defend God, and after that is defend Jesus. And then there's the kind of one step, this would be the historical or evidential approach, which is really, let's just talk about Jesus, defend Jesus. There's a reformed epistemology approach, which talks about more like, it talks about the role of the Holy Spirit to confirm himself in our lives. The cumulative case approach, the presuppositional approach. And so different ways that people can help others understand that Christianity is true. Anyway, so you have all that stuff, the scope of apologetics, and then you also have the history of apologetics. Doubt was a topic we wanted to address. That's big, and that helps us think about the way that apologetics fits into this whole conversation that we have with people. How should we understand doubt? So anyway, I've done some videos on that, and I think some more coming up too. Monday afternoon, now we're talking about some fundamental things. Truth. What is truth? Subjective versus objective truth claims, understanding the difference there, understanding relativism. We need to talk about emotions and how do emotions play in with truth. And one of the things that I spent actually quite a long time talking about was, can truth really be known? Obviously, we can't know every single thing there is to know out there in this universe, but can we know enough to have confident faith that Christianity is true? And for a lot of people, that's what hangs them up with the whole project of apologetics to begin with. Like, there's so many different ideas out there, so many different disagreements and everything else. And so can truth really be known? How do we arrive at confidence? Like, what do we do with the fact that people disagree about things? Epistemology, woohoo. And then Tuesday morning, now we are building the case for Christianity, beginning with the existence of God. Does God exist? So you have the Kalam cosmological argument, or the Kalam cosmological argument, depending how you say it. The fine-tuning argument, or there's a teleological argument. The argument of God through miracles. That's one of the things that I like to talk about, is how God has revealed himself as real through the fact that there's so many miracles that are documented and so many testimonies of people experiencing miraculous events in their lives. And so that's a conversation that I think is a lot of fun, and it seems to be a developing conversation in apologetics these days. And then the moral argument for God's existence. So you have these different types of arguments for why we can believe God exists. That's what Austin and I covered. There's more out there, but moving on, we wanted to address some objections against the existence of God. And so the problem of evil, pain, and suffering. How can God exist? How can God be good and exist when there's so much evil and pain and suffering that we see in this world and in our own lives? And then also divine hiddenness of God. That's a subject I think is also huge, but a lot of apologists really don't have much content on that. It seems like we're always focusing on the problem of pain and suffering and evil. Everyone has a talk on that. And then Tuesday afternoon, worldviews. So we wanted to share how your worldview affects how you understand and think about reality. It answers the biggest questions in life, and so it's going to be very relevant as we talk about matters of religion and what's true and what's not. And so Christianity is a worldview just as much as it is also a belief system and many other things. So we talked about Christianity. We talked about Islam, which is huge in Nigeria. And we also talked about We also talked about the occult, which is also big in Nigeria. We had the existence of God. We talked about worldviews, how to think about religion. Now, who is this God? To get into this conversation, we began with the Bible, scriptures. To do that really is a two-step process. The way that we like to outline this is, one, we need to answer, is what we have written down in the Bible the same text that was written down 2,000 years ago and beyond, right? So in other words, has the Bible been changed? And then after we talk about that and show that the manuscripts reveal that the Bible has not been changed, then is what we have true, right? So is it the same as what was originally written down? And then is what we have true? Those two pieces, we argued through those points. And then some other arguments that we can use, some other cases to bring to the table for the reliability of the Bible would be the Bible's coherence with reality, the way that the Bible is so just on point with describing this world and reality as it actually is. And then also the supernatural character of the Bible. This would be like confirmed prophecies, showing that the Bible has a divine mind, but also the way that the Bible is so marvelously interconnected with itself, a kind of inner logic from beginning to end that only makes sense if God is there orchestrating all of this together as a Bible has been formed. If we had more time in this teaching, I'm sure we would have wanted to spend more dedication to describing how the Bible came to be, because that's another big question that a lot of people face. But unfortunately, that was not, that just didn't fit in our curriculum that we were doing. And then Wednesday afternoon, we wanted to address an objection that could be raised against the Bible, which is really more of a kind of felt problem that we have. People read the Bible and they encounter a God that they don't like. Challenges of judgment or war or hell or all these different topics that people are like, well, how can God be good here? And that was something that I've actually done a lot of research on. I've written a book on this, which published recently called Why Did God Do That? So at that point, we're now ready to move on and talk about Jesus. So what we did is we started with the historicity of Jesus. Did Jesus really exist? Looking at outside sources like Tacitus and Josephus and others. And then a copycat religion. Is Jesus just a copy of other ancient pagan religions of dying and rising gods and so forth? And then the deity of Christ. Did Jesus really claim to be God? Now, Thursday morning, the resurrection. The Christian faith stands or falls on whether or not Jesus really resurrected from the dead. And Christians know this, atheists know this too. So we wanted to spend a lot of time to show that the resurrection is a historically reliable event that can be confirmed through outside sources. And so we looked at facts of the resurrection, like Jesus died, he was buried shortly after the tomb was found to be empty. The disciples had experiences that they believed were actual encounters with the risen Jesus, and the evidence for all these different points we had. We also talked about alternative theories. What if Jesus, just passed out on the cross and he never really died? Or what if the disciples thought they saw Jesus alive? Or what if they went to the wrong tomb, which is why you have the empty tomb talked about? Or maybe the disciples lied about Jesus. They stole the body from the tomb, told people they saw Jesus alive. These alternative theories don't work, and we wanted to show why. So we went through that. And then after that, at this point, we have a pretty good established case for believing Christianity is true. But we wanted to spend some time and push that even further. One would be like changed lives stories, the way that Christianity confirms itself through the lives of people who have been changed dramatically. And I know that there's subjectivity to this conversation, but it also, it's a case that we can present forward. And then there's also the hypocritical Christianity. This was more just the fact that one big barrier people have to the faith is a lot of Christians out there are hypocrites. They say one thing, they do another. They're not loving, they're hurtful. And so that's been a big reason why a lot of people leave the church or never enter in. We wanted to talk about that, which we did. And then on Thursday afternoon, we're kind of wrapping it all up. And my colleague Austin Fruits, he spoke on the trilemma, that Jesus was Lord, liar, or lunatic. He did not leave an option for any of the others. So we talk about that, and that was kind of a cool way to cap off this whole conversation, because we spent time talking about the reliability of the Gospels, what Jesus claimed to be God, and all this. And now, when you talk about Lord, liar, lunatic, it just fits well at the end of a curriculum, because it really brings the issue back before the listeners. Who do you say that Jesus is? And then also for the people of Nigeria, we wanted to talk about suffering more, a theology of suffering, honestly. And this was kind of more of a bonus item at the end, just because they go through a lot of persecution where they're at. There's a lot of Muslim extremists out there, and many of the people that we spoke to, they know folks who have been killed for their faith. The last day, Friday, we basically just spent that time to encourage our students. And so Austin said some things, and I spent some time talking about why God is truly worth it. Even when it's hard to be a Christian, is God truly worth it? So that was my final talk, and that concluded our time that we had. So hopefully that gives you an idea of how somebody might teach apologetics as a curriculum, like as a class, in a more longer form session. Hopefully it gives you an idea of how all the different things you may have heard from apologists and why we can believe Christianity. How does this all come together? Yeah, so there you go. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.